Hey guys, I want to talk about something that took me years to understand about myself. I have been an avoider, and I've shamed myself about that quite a bit. It's something I need to fix. But looking through the lens of human design kind of changed how I see that pattern. It showed me that avoidance was not a flaw. It was actually my design or my chart protecting me from something that I was not supposed to be doing. If you have ever felt the pull, almost like a physical pull, to step away from the status quo, to say no to the path that everybody told you to follow, but you could not actually see what was on the other side of that no, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You feel it in your body that something is not right. But the problem is, we don't know what comes next. So possibly you stay stuck, you stay small, you keep trying to force yourself into a box that was never made for you. And then you feel guilty about it. You might think you're lazy or uncommitted or like you don't have what it takes to really make it. But what if that feeling, that resistance, is actually giving you information? What if your design is trying to protect you from living a life that is fundamentally out of alignment with who you actually are? I grew up pretty free range. I lived rural and I had a lot of room to roam on our property. I'd jump on our gator and ride back into the woods alone, feeling totally wild and free. Didn't realize it at the time, that was just normal. That freedom was everything to me. But I also grew up with a lot of unspoken messaging. Don't cry, toughen up, don't be too much of a girl. Emotions that were labeled bad, like anger and sadness, or like you got hurt and it hurts and you're crying, those didn't feel safe to have. So I built a really hard protective shell around myself. I learned early that vulnerability was not okay. But here's what is interesting. My human design chart is actually shows that I'm deeply sensitive. I do have 9 out of 7 of the centers in the chart defined. So a lot of energy there, but I have the 2 that aren't are completely wide open. And one of those includes my heart center. But here's what is interesting. Every human design chart tells a story. Yours is going to be different than mine. Some of ours are a little more similar, right? We're all very individual. My chart tells a story of a deeply sensitive person, deeply sensitive. And what happens to sensitive, intuitive kids when their needs are not met? They start to build a really hard outer shell. They step into the not self. They create habits and responses that feel like safety to them, but are actually just protection. Maybe you can relate. When I graduated from college, I was pretty miserable and lost in the desk jobs that I was taking. And I made those decisions totally with my mind. It is what I felt like I had to do at the time, that like I was succeeding, but it was definitely not aligned for me and I was pretty miserable. And then, of course, I did what I always do. I avoided. Literally one day in my desk job when I was miserable, I Googled how to move to Germany only knowing English because I just needed to get out. Like I needed to get out of the US. That's how miserable I was. And of course, I didn't really know what I was looking for. I just knew I couldn't stay. So I traveled. I lived in Germany. I lived in Australia. For 2.5 years, I was wandering. But you know what? I felt alive. I felt free, especially when I was alone traveling to the neighboring countries. Like I traveled all by myself. I just felt so wild and free and energized and expressive. And I felt like the most me. But here's the thing, the end of the travels brought me to 25 years old and I had no money. And all my friends were back home, like climbing the ladder of their jobs. So I moved back home and I started over. And then came the really hard season of my life. The next 7 to 8 years after that of not knowing what the hell it was that I was supposed to be doing for my career. Years of trying different things, trying to be an employee again, starting businesses, getting my personal training and yoga certification, getting jobs, and then leaving them because nothing felt right in my body. And the whole time I thought something was wrong with me. I was being hard on myself, shaming myself. Like, why can't you get it together? How can everyone else just stick it out? But then 2018, I started studying human design and something clicked. I have the gate of mystery as one of my most prominent gates in my chart. And this energy asks the question, why? Why are we here? Why do we exist? What is this? I have been asking that question since I was 3 years old. Why do I feel? Why am I in this body? Why does this all happen? I also have channels that are all about provoking the spirit of life and living fully and expressively. With that, I have the Manifesting Generator 2034 channel, which is the most powerful channel in the chart. It is all about staying busy doing things that energize me, about being alive and vital and free, I would add. Hence why my body would just scream every time I tried to work in the same cubicle at the same desk for 8 hours a day. Now, you might have 2034, that might not be the case for you. It is for me. Anyway, the picture I'm trying to paint for you guys in the story is when I tried to do what I was supposed to do, go to college, work a job, follow the rules, stay in one place. My chart was literally saying no. My energy and design was actually protecting me. Every time I tried to force myself into a box, something in me would crack open and I would make a change. That felt like a pattern of avoidance, but it was actually alignment that was trying to happen. So here is what I know now. Avoidance is actually not a character flaw, if you have that. Sometimes it is your chart saying that this is not the right move for you. Sometimes it is your chart saying that the time is over. This was good for some time, and now it's time to move on. Sometimes it is your body knowing something that your mind just hasn't caught up to yet. Sometimes freedom is not selfish. It is actually the song of your soul calling you, begging you back into alignment. I was talking with a friend of mine a couple of months ago about the typical boss babe story. I feel like so many podcasts that I've listened to throughout the years talk about this woman who pushed and climbed the corporate ladder and made six figures and hit all her goals, but then still felt empty inside. And I was kind of joking with my friend, like, I wish that would have been my story. At least my bank account would have been higher. But that was never meant to be my story. And I hope that's relatable for some of you who are listening, because that story didn't happen for me because I'm lazy. It was because my currency has never been money. And I just honestly couldn't force myself to stay in a job long enough that didn't feel right to me. My sacral would scream. So my currency has always been freedom. It has been aliveness. It has been knowing that I can go for a walk in the middle of the day and not have to ask anyone to do it. I'd love to hear from you guys what your currency is. Like, what is your driving force? Put it down in the comments below. I love feeling wild and expressive and fully myself. And I spent years feeling broken because I could not just be normal or hold a job longer than 2 years or follow the status quo of the mainstream culture, until I realized that, like, I'm not broken. It's just that my energy tells a different story. So if you've been feeling like you don't have what it takes because you're not willing to push harder, if you've been sitting in that liminal space of knowing the status quo is not for you, but having no idea what comes next for you, if you have felt the pull to be free and alive and fully expressed, but you have been conditioned to believe that wanting that is selfish or irresponsible, I want you to know something. That pull is information for you. Your avoidance might be the nudge you need. It's wisdom, and your design is actually trying to prod you towards a different path. If you want to understand what your chart is really trying to tell you and how to apply that to your life, I am here to work with you. Both of my offerings are below. But more than anything, I just want you to know that you're not broken. You are just built for something different, maybe something your mind has never seen before. And that is the whole point.